Tom, good to see you as always. Had the most recent fan advisory board meeting last week. How did the meeting go?
Yeah, again, I think first of all, it's always great to get opinions from a wide variety of the fan base. I think the action on the pitch has obviously got everyone in a positive mood, and I think when you look at the overall feel about the club, we're always looking at ways to improve the experience. And again, when feedback's given, it's not that it's criticism, it's an opportunity to try and make things even better. So it was great to get those ideas in from different supporter groups, and now we can look at how we can implement them. And it was also a good chance to review what we've already done, because I think over the last couple of years, we can really start to see those differences as well.
Let's talk about some of the individual topics you covered. Firstly, the fan stones installed towards the end of August, of course, looking really good outside the front of the stadium.
Yeah, for me, it's now become part of my match day ritual to go and see them. There's a kind of family stone down there for myself, and actually, when you listen to other supporters and their stories behind their stones, I think it's fantastic. It looks great. I think we all acknowledge, some of the feedback was around about it taking quite a while to install, and I think we learnt lots of lessons from that. It's the first time we've done something like this, but it was about, fans being able to leave their name in stone. Also raising some funds towards other projects that we'll have ongoing as part of the fan advisory board. But I think, that key experience there, lots of different names, lots of different stories, some about people's first games, some in memory of people. And I think it really, really adds to the stadium. And of course, it's going to be there forever.
And we're working our way towards a second panel as we head up towards Christmas.
Yeah, lots of people now, I think, are seeing what they look like and thinking, I wish I'd have got one in that first kind of batch of stones. And they are on sale now. And what I'd do is encourage supporters to get those purchased. Just in terms of lessons learned from last time, what we're looking to do is really promote them heavily up until the Christmas build-up. Obviously, I know some people won't like me mentioning Christmas, but it really isn't far away. It's an ideal sort of present for people. And what we'll then do early January is review that with the company that installs them to look at current numbers sold and then how we can make that design work. So whereas last time we got close to the 700 mark and then we had to make those extra sales to kind of get it installed, we don't have to hit that figure this time. We're working with the company to look at how many we've sold and then what additional ones do we need to sell to make the design work, because obviously it's got to be symmetrical. So hopefully the more we can sell, the quicker we can get that second batch installed early in the new year.
Another area where progress is continuing is the Brian Lomax fan zone. That's really taking shape too.
Yeah, again, I think we mentioned we wanted things in place for the start of the season, which we did get done, and we were also honest and said this is going to grow and develop over time. When you look at the fan experience at Six Fields, there's lots of different areas, but actually the Brian Lomax fan zone is going to be a kind of an area where people visit. We've obviously got Cars Bar, with the extension outside now, that's almost doubled the bar in size in terms of capacity. The latest development that I've been to have a look at today is obviously the container bar that's going in outside. And that's going to look great once it's finished. It's going to offer a full range of drinks. It's not just a bottle bar outside, etc. And that was something which the feedback from the fans was what they wanted. So not only will we have the full container bar, now that's in place, what we can do as well is install the electrics, which means we can get some TVs outside, some additional lighting, and of course, the electrics for the DJ booth as well, which will be installed. So things like that do take time, and I think we appreciate best laid plans and things have to change. But once that's in place, we can then start to look at additional changes. We've seen additional food options on match day. We've seen the addition of the coffee van. So there's lots and lots of things there that we're working on, and we will continue to do so. But it's also important to remember that whilst that's a focal point, you've got the fan stones outside the west stand as well. We've got the community pitch round the back of the north stand as well, and then the Beehive family zone as well. So there's lots and lots going on of the match day, and hopefully, with supporters' feedback, we can continue to enhance that experience.
And just on the fan zone, important to say the funding has been a combination of club funding and funds raised from the Fan Stones project.
Yeah, absolutely. The funding that was raised from the Fan Stones, we said the profit would be split 50-50 between the Fan Advisory Board and the Academy here at the Cobblers, and that did contribute a figure towards that fan zone, but that had to be matched very much so by the Board of Directors here to enable us to install the additional container bar. The cost, James went away and did research, I went away and did research, and to put these facilities in place aren't cheap. So I think we need to say a thank you to the club as well for their support in that additional funding to make this happen. And again, the more stones we sell in the second phase, the more funding we'll have to then enhance that even further.
We're sat over here in the fantastic new LCS stand in one of the boxes, and the naming of the boxes after legends is another project that we'll be moving forward with.
Yeah, so we went out to fan groups and asked them to gather the names of people, and actually, what we looked at when we looked at the boxes was that would be based around players. The idea for the Brian Lomax fan zone, his name came up again and again from lots and lots of different supporters groups, but we felt the fan zone would be the appropriate kind of area for his name to be associated with. With the boxes, what we're looking at is players who've had an impact at the club over a period of time, and we collated those ideas in, and like you say, what we'll do now is unveil those, get the players or their families along as well, to make a fuss of them, and again, it's a nice reward for players who've given so much to the club over that period of time.
Let's move on to other matters. I know the topic of new kits was discussed and whether fans could have a vote or look at potential designs and have a say in the input. I know that was something you covered in depth at the meeting.
Yeah, so when we're looking at it, obviously we're getting really positive feedback from this year's kits, but actually the planning for next year's is already in a very, very advanced stage. And the idea was put forward, could we have a fan vote, which we had a few years ago, and obviously had some really popular kits, and I think we followed that advice for subsequent kits that have come out. But I think what we found, and again, you talk and you get different perspectives, was actually something I hadn't really considered, that whilst the fan vote is great, what it's also doing is giving people making counterfeit kits an idea of what your kit's going to look like next season, giving them the opportunity to get the head start on producing those kits. So actually, what we're going to look at going forward when we work with the kit manufacturers is key themes, so getting the fans involved in that. So whilst it might not be the actual final design we're getting a say on, actually the themes around that can be really, really important for us to help develop, whilst also, not putting it as risk of people making these counterfeit kits, having seen that's what your kit's going to look like for next season, because ultimately, the social media leaks do sort of damage the club in that sense, and when people have got those opportunities to make those kits, they're doing them, and we want the revenue to come to the club to help us develop.
I know a question that came your way ahead of the meeting was regarding the recent share issue around the club, and I know that's something you've talked to the chairman and James about.
Yeah, so I think I've spoken before. We talk regularly as a group. I actually got stopped in a supermarket and asked this particular question. And it's one you're happy to answer. So in terms of the issues of the shares, when we're looking at it, it's issued to Northampton Town Ventures Limited, who ultimately own the investment in the football club. And actually it was around us being able to invest in new players to make sure we're in line with the salary management cap. So effectively, those shares are issued by the directors to actually enable us to kind of strengthen the team on the pitch, which I'm sure as fans we're all supporters of. So I think, there's nothing hidden there. It's easy to clarify, and hopefully we've answered that question.
Just finally, Tom, to round off, were there any other topics that supporters brought to the meeting for you to discuss?
Yeah, so what we do before the meeting is ask the groups to gather feedback. Obviously, I read all the social media pages and talk to as many supporters as possible, but we don't want to miss anything. So we ask the groups what's important to them, and then they bring those topics along to discuss. So, for example, one of the topics which came up was around the scoreboard, being able to display the timing throughout, because obviously the commercial department have done a great job of bringing in revenue for the club, of selling adverts for the scoreboard, but that's one of the things which actually we discussed prior to the meeting, so I was able to give an indication that that's something that's already being looked at. So I think with that, it's one of those things we work towards, but actually, again, we've got to look, there's lots of local businesses back in the club, which is a great thing. So that was one of the topics. I think in terms of another area which was raised, was around the number of disabled parking spaces, and the number have actually increased. So I think what people see is a post that goes out on social media before games saying, if you can't attend, please let us know. And Wendy, our fantastic SLO, was able to explain that actually some games there's parking spaces which aren't used because people might be on holiday, and all we're doing is encouraging people to let us know if they can't make it, so then we can actually utilise that space as well. Because obviously we don't want supporters to miss out. And then taking that even further, we had discussions around car parking in general and different kind of ways in which that will change in the future. And I think it's important to stress there's no immediate kind of short-term changes to that, and the club are always looking at ways of improving it. And actually we can feed those ideas back, and it's worth highlighting that the Dustin Mill car parks never actually reach full capacity. So when people say there aren't enough available spaces, that in yardage is actually closer than the North Gravel car park. So I think from those topics, what is important is people bring ideas to discuss. We then feed them back to the club, and then we can come up, feedback in future meetings. I'll catch up with supporters after the meeting at the next games anyway on particular topics. And you know what, there were some questions that I don't have the answers to straight away, but I was able to clarify them and then follow up via email to supporters to answer those questions that they had.
And just finally, Tom, as we always finish, your contact details if anyone wishes to get in touch.
So if people want to get in touch with me directly, it's clifftom@hotmail.com via email. I'll always try and answer those as quickly as possible. Don't forget as well, you've got representatives of travel clubs attending, online forums, social media forums, and you can message those directly. If you're not sure who's in those groups, we've got the fan engagement strategy that's on the club website, and we can share a link to that as well so you can see the groups. And again, I would stress, we read the comments, we take the feedback on board, and we're always looking to improve. So, yeah, please do get in touch with me via email or come and see me on a match day.